Hey guys, tonight we slip into the steamy, gilded world of the Khmer Empire, where palace halls shimmer with gold and secrets slither through every smile. Picture yourself stepping onto polished stone floors, the air heavy with jasmine and sandalwood, as silk-robed nobles glide past, their eyes flicking toward you with guarded curiosity. You're in the heart of a 13th-century Khmer court, where opulence drips from every carved wall, but a shadowy pact is brewing, one that will topple a prince. Trust me, you probably won't survive this court's intrigue without a few tricks up your sleeve. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your city and the time where you are. I love picturing you all settling in worldwide. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step into the Khmer capital, Angkor, its skyline pierced by temple spires that seem to touch the stars. The palace is a labyrinth of lotus-shaped pillars, each etched with gods and dancers, their stone faces watching you. Servants fan palm leaves, stirring breezes that carry whispers of courtly schemes. You're here at a time when the Khmer Empire rules Southeast Asia, its wealth built on rice, trade, and conquest. Historians note that King Jayavarman VII, a devout Buddhist, poured riches into temples like Bayon, but his successors faced restless nobles jockeying for power. That's the stage for our prince, whose name, let's call him Surya Kumara for clarity, though records blur, hovers in the shadows of a mysterious pact. You pause by a bronze gong, its low hum vibrating through your chest. The court's daily ritual, the offering of the dawn, sees nobles present gifts to the king: jade, gold, even elephants draped in silk. It's a display of loyalty, but you notice something odd. A noble, his headdress gleaming with rubies, hesitates before bowing, his fingers brushing a folded palm leaf tucked in his sash. That's no love note. It's a coded message, a quirk of Khmer elites who used palm leaf manuscripts for secret deals. Historians still argue whether these messages fueled alliances or betrayals, but you sense this one ties to Surya Kumara's fate. The air shifts as you move toward the throne room. Attendants pour rosewater into silver basins, a lavish habit that screams wealth. Did you know a single basin's contents could feed a village for a month? Yet, the nobles barely blink, their minds on something darker. You catch a whisper. The prince trusts too much. Surya Kumara, young and ambitious, is said to have forged a pact with lesser lords to secure his claim. But in this court, trust is a currency that buys knives, not loyalty. You glance at a courtier's sly grin, but he's already picking sides. The pact, you sense, is a web of promises, each thread laced with ambition and danger. As you linger, a dancer sways to a gamelan's haunting tune, her anklets jingling like coins. The music's meant to soothe, but it only deepens the tension. You're starting to feel the weight of this place. Every gesture, every gift, every glance hides a motive. And that palm leaf? It's the first clue to a pact that will unravel in blood and shadow. Let's keep moving, deeper into this glittering, treacherous world. You glide through the Khmer Palace's golden halls, where torchlight flickers on walls carved with serpentine nagas, their eyes seeming to follow your every step. The air hums with the clink of gold ornaments and the murmur of nobles, their silk robes rustling like dry leaves. You're still in the heart of 13th century Angkor, chasing the thread of Prince Surya Kumara's Shadowy Pact. The court's opulence is dizzying. Think fountains trickling with scented water and tables piled with mangoes and saffron rice. But beneath it all, a secret alliance festers, tying nobles to a scheme that could crown or crush our prince. You pause at a corridor lined with bronze statues of deities, each holding a lotus that glows under the lamplight. The Khmer court, historians tell us, was a machine of ritual where every gesture signaled loyalty or defiance. Nobles gathered daily for the blessing of the realm, a ceremony where they offered rice and incense to appease the gods. But you notice something off. A group of lesser lords, their headdresses less ornate than the high nobles, linger in a corner, whispering. One slips a tiny bamboo tube to another quirky Khmer habit, using hollowed bamboo for covert notes. Historians still argue whether these notes carried trade secrets or treason, but you're betting this one's tied to Surya Kumara's pact. You move closer, catching the scent of betel nut on their breath, a noble obsession that stains their teeth red and costs a small fortune. Seriously, these guys chew through enough betel to fund a temple. The whispers mention the prince's vow, hinting at a deal to back Surya Kumara's bid for influence, maybe even the throne. But in this court, alliances are as stable as a house of palm leaves in a monsoon. You spot a high noble, his gold armlets gleaming, watching the group with a smirk. But he's already planning to sell someone out. Classic court move. The hall opens to a courtyard where musicians pluck at Ronit Ek, bamboo xylophones, their notes floating like a lullaby. It's soothing, but you can't shake the tension. The pact's details are murky, maybe a promise of land or titles, but you sense it's built on fragile trust. You pass a servant polishing a jade vase, its surface etched with scenes of royal haunts. That's another Khmer elite quirk. They love commissioning art to flaunt their power, sometimes spending more on a single vase than on a village's wells. The prince, you hear, gifted a similar vase to seal his pact, but gifts here often come with strings or daggers. As you linger, a breeze carries the scent of frangipani from the gardens. A noblewoman adjusts her sampad, a silk skirt worth more than a farmer's yearly harvest, and shoots a glance at the whispering lords. Her eyes narrow. Does she know something? The pact's secrecy is starting to crack, and you're picking up on the fault lines. Surya Kumara's ambition is a spark in a dry forest, and this court loves nothing more than watching a fire spread. Let's keep moving, deeper into the web of whispers and gold. You slip into a candlelit banquet hall, where the air is thick with the aroma of lemongrass and roasted fish, and the Khmer court's elite lounge on silk cushions. The walls shimmer with gold leaf, reflecting the glow of oil lamps shaped like lotuses. You're still in 13th century Angkor, tracing the shadowy pact that binds Prince Surya Kumara to his allies, and maybe his doom. This feast, dripping with opulence, is a stage for loyalty and lies, and you can feel the tension simmering beneath the clink of silver cups. You settle near a low table piled with delicacies, sticky rice wrapped in banana leaves, mangoes carved into flowers, and spiced pork that costs more per bite than a peasant's monthly wages. Khmer nobles, historians note, used feasts to flex power, often bankrupting treasuries to outshine rivals. Tonight's host, a high noble named Chandara, is a key player in Surya Kumara's pact, but his smile seems too sharp. You notice a quirky court habit. Guests dip their fingers in rosewater bowls before eating, a ritual meant to purify, but also a chance to flash jeweled rings. One lord's ring, a sapphire the size of a quail's egg, catches your eye, but it's a bribe or a signal. The room buzzes with laughter, but you catch a hushed exchange. Chandara leans toward a minor noble, muttering about the prince's plan. The pact, you gather, involves rallying support against a rival faction, maybe even the king's own kin. But something's off. Chandara's ally fidgets, his eyes darting to a veiled noblewoman across the hall. Historians still argue whether women in the Khmer court wielded covert influence, but her subtle nod suggests she's no bystander. You're starting to see the pact as a chessboard, and Surya Kumara is not the only one moving pieces. A gamelan ensemble strikes up, its gongs and drums weaving a hypnotic rhythm. You'd almost relax, but then you spot a servant slip a tiny clay vial into Chandara's sleeve. Poison? A message? Khmer elites love their sneaky tricks. Some even hid notes in hollowed-out fruit. Bet that vial's got a secret worth more than the gold plates on the table. You glance at Surya Kumara, seated near the host, his face calm, but his fingers tapping. Does he know his allies are playing their own game? In this court, a feast is never just a feast. It's a battlefield of smiles and schemes. As you linger, a breeze from an open window carries the scent of night-blooming jasmine. The noblewoman adjusts her veil, her eyes locking on Chandara for a heartbeat too long. The pact's threads are tangling, and you can almost taste the betrayal in the air. Surya Kumara's ambition is a candle burning at both ends, and this glittering hall is about to get a lot darker. Let's keep moving, past the silk and spice, into the heart of the intrigue. You drift through the palace gardens, where moonlight spills over lotus ponds and palm trees sway in the warm Angkor night. The air hums with cicadas and the faint chime of anklets as courtiers steal away from the banquet hall. You're still in the 13th century Khmer court, trailing the shadowy pact that ties Prince Surya Kumara to his ambitious allies. These gardens, lush with frangipani and tamarind, are a haven for whispered plots, and you're about to stumble on a clue to the pact's dark heart. You pause by a stone fountain carved with apsaras, celestial dancers whose frozen smiles seem to mock the court's secrets. Khmer nobles, historians tell us, treated gardens as stages for private deals, away from the throne room's prying eyes. You notice a pair of lords lingering near a mango tree, their voices low. One unfurls a silk cloth, revealing a palm leaf etched with symbols, another sneaky Khmer trick, using garden-inspired codes for covert messages. Historians still argue whether these cryptic notes sparked alliances or doomed them, but you're betting this one's a piece of Surya Kumara's puzzle. You edge closer, catching the scent of incense wafting from a nearby shrine. The lords mention the prince's price, hinting at a pact to sway the king's council with promises of trade routes or temple funds. But one lord, his headdress askew, mutters about risks and her shadow. You glance around and spot a veiled figure, maybe the noblewoman from the feast, watching from behind a lattice screen. But she's got her own game running. Khmer elite women often played power through proxies. You can't help but chuckle. Trying to keep up with this court's schemes is like chasing fireflies in a storm. A breeze stirs, carrying the scent of damp earth and jasmine. You notice a servant slip a folded leaf into the fountain's base, a quirky court habit, hiding messages in plain sight, trusting the gods to guard them. Bet that leaf names names, maybe even Surya Kumara's allies or enemies. The prince himself isn't here, but his name hangs heavy in the air. You recall his calm face at the feast, tapping fingers betraying his nerves. The pact's meant to lift him higher, but you're starting to see cracks. Loyalty here shifts like sand in a monsoon. As you linger, a peacock struts past, its tail glittering under the moon. The lords slip away, their whispers fading into the night. You're left with the fountain's soft trickle and a growing sense that Surya Kumara's pact is a tightrope over a pit of daggers. The gardens may look serene, but they're a web of coded glances and hidden leaves, and the prince's fate is tangled in it. Let's keep moving, deeper into this moonlit maze of secrets. You stand amid a glittering gift exchange in the Khmer Palace's central courtyard, where sunlight dances on gold trays heaped with treasures, jade carvings, silver bowls, and bolts of silk that shimmer like liquid starlight. The air buzzes with the clink of ornaments and the murmurs of nobles, their smiles as polished as the gems they offer. You're still in 13th century Angkor, unraveling the shadowy pact that binds Prince Surya Kumara to his allies, and this lavish ceremony is a glittering mask for envy and betrayal. You linger near a sandalwood table, where nobles present gifts to the king, a ritual historians say cemented alliances but often sowed discord. Each offering is a flex. Think emeralds worth a village's harvest or a gilded elephant tusk that screams, "I'm richer than you." You notice a quirky court habit. Nobles wrap gifts in lotus leaves, believing they ward off bad omens, but you spot one lord, his fingers trembling, slip a tiny obsidian charm into his package. Historians still argue whether such charms were tokens of loyalty or veiled threats, but you're betting this one's tied to Surya Kumara's pact. You catch a whisper. The prince's gift outshines us all. Surya Kumara steps forward, offering a pearl necklace so dazzling it could buy a province. Remember that necklace from the banquet? It's here, gleaming like trouble. The crowd murmurs, some with awe, others with narrowed eyes. The gift's meant to seal his pact with lesser lords, promising them wealth for loyalty, but envy ripples through the high nobles. One, a grizzled lord named Viriak, adjusts his ruby-studded belt and mutters about upstarts. But he's planning to snap a thread in Surya Kumara's web. Nobles don't take kindly to being outshone. A flute's melody weaves through the air, soft and hypnotic, but you can't miss the tension. A noblewoman, maybe the veiled figure from the gardens, brushes past Surya Kumara, her silk sleeve grazing his arm. Her smile's too sharp, bet she's stirring the pot, maybe whispering to Viriak about the prince's ambition. Khmer elites love their subtle power plays. Some women gifted jeweled daggers to hint at their influence. You chuckle. Trying to track this court's alliances is like untangling a necklace after a monsoon. As you linger, the scent of lotus and incense swirls around you. A servant polishes a silver tray, its surface etched with scenes of royal triumphs, another Khmer quirk to flaunt power. But the real story's in the glances, Viriak's glare, the noblewoman's smirk, Surya Kumara's stiff nod. The Pact's promises are cracking under the weight of envy, and that pearl necklace might as well be a noose. Let's keep moving, past the glittering gifts, into the shadows where jealousy festers. You wander through the sacred precincts of a Khmer temple, its towering spires piercing the dawn sky, their stone faces of gods and kings gazing down with unblinking calm. The air is heavy with incense and the chant of priests, their saffron robes glowing against the gray stone. You're still in 13th century Angkor, tracking the shadowy pact that binds Prince Surya Kumara to his allies, and these hallowed grounds, meant for devotion, pulse with the court's darker currents. You pause by a bas-relief of a celestial dance, its carved figures seeming to sway in the flickering torchlight. Historians tell us Khmer temples, like Priya Khan, were not just spiritual hubs, but political chessboards, where nobles sought divine favor to bolster their schemes. You notice a priest, his shaved head gleaming, slip a folded palm leaf to a noble in the shadows, a quirky Khmer habit, using sacred spaces to pass clandestine messages. Historians still argue whether priests were neutral or pawns in court intrigues, but you're betting this one's whispering about Surya Kumara's pact. You catch the scent of sandalwood as you move closer to a shrine, where offerings of rice and lotus flowers pile high. The noble, his gold armlet catching the light, murmurs about the prince's oath. The pact, you gather, involves temple funds, maybe diverting donations to sway key allies. But priests don't part with gold easily, and you sense a hitch. A second noble, his face half hidden by a silk shawl, shakes his head, muttering about omens. Bet he's spooked by a recent eclipse. Khmer elites were obsessed with celestial signs, often spending fortunes on astrologers to predict their fates. A low chant rises, soothing yet eerie, as priests circle a golden statue of Vishnu. You'd almost drift off, but then you spot a familiar figure, the veiled noblewoman from the feast and gardens, kneeling in prayer. Her fingers trace a jade amulet, and you wonder if she's praying for Surya Kumara's success or his ruin. Khmer women often wielded influence through temple patronage, gifting relics to curry favor. You chuckle. Trying to spot the real power in this court is like guessing which lotus hides a snake. As you linger, a breeze carries the scent of damp stone and jasmine. The priest tucks another palm leaf into his robe, his eyes darting to the noble woman. The pact's threads are weaving through these sacred walls, but they're fraying fast. Surya Kumara's ambition leans on divine approval, yet you sense the gods, or the priests, might not be on his side. Let's keep moving, past the chants and carvings, deeper into this tangled web of faith and betrayal. You slip back into the Khmer Palace's banquet hall, where twilight casts long shadows over tables laden with opulence, silver platters of spiced duck, mangoes drizzled with honey, and wine poured from jade ewers. The air hums with the clatter of gold spoons and the murmur of nobles, their silk robes catching the glow of lotus-shaped lamps. You're still in 13th century Angkor, chasing the shadowy pact that ties Prince Surya Kumara to his allies. But tonight's feast feels like a stage for sabotage, its extravagance hiding a bitter undercurrent. You linger near a carved pillar, its serpentine nagas seeming to coil tighter as you watch. Historians note that Khmer feasts were power plays, where hosts flaunted wealth to cement status, often draining treasuries for a single night. Chandara, the high noble from earlier, hosts again, his smile as smooth as the rosewater in the finger bowls. You spot a quirky court habit. Nobles sprinkle saffron threads on their plates, a costly flex believed to ward off evil spirits. But one lord, his headdress heavy with emeralds, hesitates, his eyes flicking to a dish served to Surya Kumara. Historians still argue whether subtle poisonings were common in Khmer courts, but you're betting something's off with that plate. You catch a whisper. The prince trusts Chandara too much. The pact, meant to unite Surya Kumara with lesser lords, hinges on Chandara's support, but you sense a double game. The emerald-crowned lord leans toward Viriak, the grizzled noble from the gift exchange, muttering about rewards. Viriak's smirk suggests he's ready to sell out, but he's been offered a bigger slice of power. You recall that pearl necklace Surya Kumara gifted. It's around Chandara's neck now, a glittering taunt. In this court, gifts don't bind loyalty, they breed resentment. A gamelan's soft clang weaves through the air, almost lulling you, but then you notice a servant swaps Surya Kumara's wine cup with another. A clumsy mistake? Or a calculated move? Khmer elites love their covert tricks. Some hid toxins in hollowed-out rings. You chuckle. Dining here is like playing chess with a scorpion as your opponent. The veiled noblewoman, seated nearby, adjusts her amulet, her gaze fixed on Surya Kumara. Does she know what's in that cup? Her calm unnerves you. She's either an ally or a puppeteer. As you linger, the scent of lemongrass and incense swirls around you. Chandara raises a toast to unity, but his eyes lock on Surya Kumara, sharp as a blade. The pact's promises are crumbling, and this feast is less a celebration than a trap. Surya Kumara lifts his cup, unaware of the shadows closing in. Let's keep moving, past the gilded plates and poisoned smiles, deeper into this treacherous banquet. You step into a dimly lit archive chamber within the Khmer Palace, where the air is thick with the musty scent of palm leaf manuscripts and the faint glow of oil lamps dances on stone walls. Shelves sag under the weight of bundled leaves, each etched with secrets of the 13th century Angkor court. You're still chasing the shadowy pact that binds Prince Surya Kumara to his allies, and this hidden trove feels like the key to a betrayal that could seal his fate. You pause by a carved wooden chest, its lid inlaid with mother of pearl, as a scribe shuffles past, his fingers stained with ink. Historians tell us Khmer nobles used palm leaf records not just for laws, but for private schemes, documenting alliances in cryptic script. You notice a quirky court habit. Scribes tie certain leaves with red thread, marking them as eyes only for elite readers. One such bundle, tucked behind a statue of Ganesh, catches your eye, but it's linked to Surya Kumara's pact. Historians still argue whether these archives hid treason or merely trade deals, but you sense this one's a dagger in written form. You edge closer, catching the scent of dried betel leaves stored nearby, a noble obsession that lingers even here. The scribe mutters about the prince's letter, and you glimpse a leaf with Surya Kumara's seal, a lotus crossed with a spear. The pact, you gather, was formalized here, promising land and titles to lesser lords in exchange for loyalty. But you spot a second leaf, its script fresher, naming Chandara and Viriak. It hints at a counter deal, one that cuts Surya Kumara out. Bet those two are rewriting the rules. Nobles don't share power like they share mangoes at a feast. A soft creak echoes as a door opens, and the veiled noblewoman slips in, her silk sampot whispering against the floor. She's everywhere, isn't she? Her fingers brush the red-threaded bundle, and you wonder if she's checking or planting evidence. Khmer women often influenced courts through scribes, gifting gold to sway what was written. You chuckle. Trying to track this court's plots is like chasing smoke in a monsoon. The scribe bows to her, his eyes darting nervously. Does he know she's pulling strings? As you linger, a breeze from a high window stirs the lamp flames, casting shadows that seem to writhe. The archive's quiet, but it's screaming with secrets. That letter with Surya Kumara's seal is a noose tightening around his ambitions, and Chandara's name on another leaf spells betrayal. The pact's unraveling, and these dusty leaves are its obituary. Let's keep moving, past the ink and intrigue, deeper into this web of written doom. You weave through the Khmer Palace's bustling game courts, where nobles clad in silk and gold toss dice and move carved ivory pieces across polished stone boards. The air rings with laughter and the clink of jade betting tokens, but the undercurrent of rivalry is sharper than the midday sun glinting off the palace roofs. You're still in 13th century Angkor, unraveling the shadowy pact that ties Prince Surya Kumara to his allies, and these games, lavish and cutthroat, mirror the deadly stakes of his ambition. You pause by a shaded pavilion, its pillars etched with leaping deer, as nobles play a game called Chaturanga Khmer, a chess-like contest historians say doubled as a test of wit and loyalty. Tokens shaped like elephants and nagas slide across the board, each move a subtle jab or pledge. You notice a quirky court habit. Players sip rice wine from tiny silver cups, believing it sharpens their strategy, though it mostly loosens tongues. One noble, his fingers flashing a ruby ring, bets a chest of sapphires, but it's worth more than a village. Historians still argue whether these games masked political deals, but you're betting this match is a stage for Surya Kumara's pact. You catch a name, Surya Kumara's wager. The prince, seated at a central board, moves a golden elephant, his smile tight as he faces Viriak, the grizzled noble from the gift exchange. The pact's promises, land, titles, seem to hang on this game, but Viriak's smirk says he's playing for more than tokens. You recall that pearl necklace, now worn by Chandara, who watches from the sidelines, his fingers drumming. Bet he's betting against the prince, maybe whispering to Viriak about a better deal. Khmer elites love turning games into power plays, sometimes gifting winning pieces to seal alliances or signal betrayals. A gamelan's soft rhythm drifts from a nearby terrace, almost lulling you, but then you spot the veiled noblewoman again, her amulet glinting as she leans toward a servant. She murmurs something, and the servant slips a tiny bamboo marker under Viriak's cup. A signal? A bribe? You chuckle. Playing games here is like dancing on a cobra's hood. The crowd cheers as Surya Kumara makes a bold move, but Viriak counters, his eyes cold. The game's a mirror of the pact. Every move builds trust or breaks it, and Surya Kumara is losing ground. As you linger, the scent of frangipani and wine swirls around you. A servant polishes a jade game piece, another Khmer quirk to flaunt wealth. But the real stakes are in the glances, Viriak's confidence, Shandara's calculation, the noblewoman's calm. The pact's threads are fraying, and this game court is where they snap. Surya Kumara's ambition is a dice roll, and the odds aren't in his favor. Let's keep moving, past the tokens and taunts, deeper into this treacherous play. You drift along the banks of a shimmering river that winds through the heart of Angkor, its waters reflecting the golden spires of distant temples and the swaying palms that line its edges. The air is warm, laced with the scent of lotus blossoms and the rhythmic splash of oars as nobles glide past in carved boats draped with silk. You're still in the 13th century Khmer court, chasing the shadowy pact that binds Prince Surya Kumara to his allies, and this river, sacred and serene, carries whispers of treachery beneath its tranquil surface. You pause by a stone jetty, its steps worn smooth by centuries of offerings, where nobles perform a ritual known as the river's blessing. Historians note that Khmer elites honored rivers as divine, floating lanterns and scattering rice to ensure prosperity, but these rites often masked political maneuvers. You notice a quirky court habit. Nobles tie silk cords around lotus stems, each not a coded prayer or a signal. One lord, his gold anklet glinting, releases a lantern that bobs oddly, weighed down by something inside. Historians still argue whether such lanterns hid messages or bribes, but you're betting this one's tied to Surya Kumara's pact. You catch a murmur. The prince's trust flows too freely. The pact, you sense, involves securing river trade routes for Surya Kumara's allies, promising wealth to lesser lords. But you spot Viriak, the grizzled noble from the game courts, whispering with a boatman near a tamarind tree. His words mention Shandara's plan, hinting at a betrayal brewing. Bet Viriak's ready to divert those routes, and the pact's loyalty for himself. You recall that pearl necklace, still glittering on Shandara's neck at the games. Its absence here feels like a deliberate snub. You chuckle. Nobles here juggle alliances like lotus lanterns in a storm. A soft chant rises from a nearby ritual, where priests scatter petals into the current. The scene's calming, almost hypnotic, but then you notice the veiled noblewoman again, standing on a gilded barge, her amulet catching the light. She's releasing a lantern, but her eyes lock on Viriak for a heartbeat too long. Is she steering this betrayal or merely watching it unfold? Khmer women often shaped court politics through river rites, gifting boats to temples to sway priests. The boatman slips a silk cord into her barge's canopy, a sign she's in the game. As you linger, the river's gentle lapping carries the scent of offerings and intrigue. A servant polishes a bronze, or its surface etched with fish motifs, another Khmer flex of wealth. The pact's promises are sinking fast, and Surya Kumara's ambition is caught in the current. This river may bless the court, but it's carrying secrets that could drown the prince. Let's keep moving, past the lanterns and lies, deeper into this flowing web of deceit. You stand beneath a starlit sky in the Khmer Palace's outer courtyard, where the air hums with the distant chime of temple bells and the faint rustle of palm fronds swaying in the night breeze. Torches cast flickering shadows on stone carvings of celestial dancers, their frozen grace a stark contrast to the tension swirling around you. You're still in 13th century Angkor, tracking the shadowy pact that binds Prince Surya Kumara to his faltering allies, and now an astrologer's cryptic warning ties the pact to a looming tragedy. You pause near a raised platform where a robed astrologer, his fingers tracing a bronze star chart, mutters to a cluster of nobles. Historians tell us Khmer elites obsessed over celestial omens, spending fortunes on astrologers to guide decisions from marriages to wars. You notice a quirky court habit. Nobles wear tiny silver amulets shaped like constellations, believing they ward off cosmic curses. One noble, his amulet glinting with lapis, clutches it tightly as the astrologer speaks of a darkened star over Surya Kumara. Historians still argue whether such omens shaped court plots or merely justified them, but you're betting this one's fueling the pact's collapse. You catch a whisper. The prince ignores the heavens. The astrologer, his voice low, warns that Surya Kumara's ambition, tied to the pact's promises of land and loyalty, defies a recent comet's path. You recall Viriak's smirk at the river ritual. He's here now, nodding as if the stars confirm his own plans. Bet he's using this omen to sway allies, maybe even Chandara, whose pearl necklace glints in the torchlight nearby. The pact's meant to crown Surya Kumara's dreams, but the heavens seem to have other ideas. You chuckle. Trusting stars over swords in this court is like betting on a lotus to stop a monsoon. A soft drumbeat echoes from a distant temple, its rhythm almost lulling you. But then you spot the veiled noblewoman, her silhouette sharp against the starry sky. She's whispering to a minor lord, her amulet catching the light as she points to the comet's faint streak. Is she fanning fear or steering the pact's end? Khmer women often shaped omens' interpretations, gifting astrologers to tilt predictions. The lord nods nervously, his fingers twitching toward a hidden dagger. The astrologer's warning is a spark, and the court's ready to burn. As you linger, the scent of sandalwood incense drifts from a nearby shrine. A servant polishes a bronze star chart, its edges etched with cosmic myths, another Khmer flex of divine favor. But the real story's in the glances. Viriak's confidence, Chandara's calculation, the noblewoman's calm. The pact's threads are snapping under the weight of celestial dread, and Surya Kumara's fate hangs on a star no one trusts. Let's keep moving, past the omens and whispers, deeper into this cosmic conspiracy. You approach the towering gates of the Khmer Palace, their stone arches carved with snarling lions and lotus vines, glowing faintly under the torchlight of a humid Angkor night. The air carries the scent of charcoal and jasmine, mingling with the low hum of guards' murmurs and the clank of bronze spears. You're still in the 13th century court, chasing the shadowy pact that once promised Prince Surya Kumara power but now teeters on betrayal's edge. These gates, meant to protect the elite, stand as the final stage for a treachery that's about to unravel. You pause by a massive pillar, its base etched with scenes of royal processions, as a group of nobles gathers near the gatehouse. Historians note that palace gates were symbolic thresholds, where loyalty was sworn or broken, often sealed with public oaths. You spot a quirky court habit. Nobles tie silk ribbons to the gate's iron rings, each not a vow of allegiance, or a lie. One ribbon, crimson and frayed, catches your eye. It's tied by Viriak, the grizzled noble from the starlit courtyard. Historians still argue whether such gestures hid coded signals, but you're betting this ribbon marks the pact's final betrayal. You catch a hushed exchange. The prince arrives too late. Surya Kumara, his face drawn, approaches the gates, expecting his allies to rally. The pact, you recall, hinged on their support to sway the king's council, but Viriak's standing with Chandara, whose pearl necklace, remember that, gleams like a taunt. Viriak's ribbon isn't a pledge, it's a signal to others, maybe even guards, that the prince's time is up. Bet Chandara's promised Viriak a bigger prize, land, perhaps, or a title. You chuckle. Loyalty here shifts faster than a monsoon's wind. A distant gong sounds, its low vibration almost soothing, but then you notice the veiled noblewoman, her silhouette sharp against the gate's shadow. She's whispering to a guard, her amulet glinting as she slips him a jade token. Is she sealing Surya Kumara's fate or hedging her bets? Khmer women often swayed gatehouse politics, bribing guards to control access. The guard nods, his spear tilting slightly toward the prince. The pact's collapse is playing out in glances and gestures, and Surya Kumara's ambition is a moth nearing the torch. As you linger, a breeze stirs the ribbons, their colors dancing in the firelight. A servant polishes a bronze gate hinge, its surface etched with myths of divine justice. Another Khmer flex of power. But the real story's in the silence. Viriak's cold stare, Shandara's smug nod, the noblewoman's retreat. The gates, meant to guard the prince, are now his trap. The pact's broken, and betrayal's truth lies just beyond. Let's keep moving, past the stone and silk, into the heart of this final act. You stand in the heart of a vibrant festival outside the Khmer palace, where the air pulses with the beat of drums and the scent of roasted coconut and frangipani. Silk banners flutter above crowds of nobles and commoners, their faces lit by lanterns shaped like stars. You're still in 13th century Angkor, tracing the shadowy pact that once crowned Prince Surya Kumara's ambitions, but now crumbles amid betrayal. This festival, meant to honor the monsoon's end, hides the final unraveling of the prince's dreams, its rhythm cloaking a darker cadence. You pause near a wooden stage where dancers in gold headdresses sway to a gamelan's clang, their anklets jingling like coins. Historians tell us Khmer festivals were grand affairs, blending devotion and politics, where nobles flaunted loyalty through lavish gifts to temples. You notice a quirky court habit. Nobles toss jasmine garlands into a sacred fire, each bloom a public prayer or a coded signal. Viriak, the grizzled noble from the gates, throws a garland with a flourish, but his eyes lock on Chandara nearby, whose pearl necklace glints in the firelight. Historians still argue whether festivals masked coups, but you're betting this once the pact's funeral pyre. You catch a whisper, the prince's star falls tonight. Surya Kumara moves through the crowd, his silk robe pristine but his face taut, unaware of the trap closing. The pact's promises, land, loyalty, have dissolved. Viriak and Chandara have swayed key allies, maybe even the king's guard. You recall the veiled noblewoman's jade token at the gates. She's here, too, slipping a folded palm leaf to a temple priest. Bet she's cemented the betrayal, her amulet a quiet boast of her role. Khmer women often shaped festival politics, gifting relics to sway divine favor or human schemes. You chuckle, tracking this court's plots is like chasing sparks in a bonfire. The drums quicken, their beat almost hypnotic, but you notice guards shifting closer to Surya Kumara, their spears glinting. A servant pours rice wine into silver cups, another Khmer flex of wealth, but one cup, meant for the prince, sits untouched, its surface oddly clouded. Poison? A signal? The festival's joy feels hollow, its lanterns casting shadows that twist like nagas. Viriak raises a toast to harmony, his smirk sharp as a blade, while Chandara nods, his fingers tracing that stolen necklace. The pact's collapse is a silent drumbeat, and Surya Kumara's ambition is its final note. As you linger, a breeze carries the scent of burning jasmine and wax. A dancer's silk scarf flutters to the ground, unnoticed, like the prince's fading hopes. The festival's rhythm hides the truth. Viriak's garland, Shandara's nod, the noblewoman's leaf, all spell doom. Surya Kumara's dream is ash, and this celebration is its shroud. Let's keep moving, past the drums and deceit, toward the end of this tragic dance. You stand amid the smoldering ruins of a once grand hall in the Khmer palace, where charred beams jut like bones from piles of ash and shattered stone. The air is thick with the acrid scent of burnt sandalwood and the faint echo of a distant gong, mournful in the dawn's gray light. You're still in 13th century Angkor, piecing together the tragic end of Prince Surya Kumara's shadowy pact, its collapse now etched in this wreckage. The hall, once a stage for opulent feasts, holds the final clues to the prince's downfall. You step over a cracked jade vase, its lotus carvings blackened, as the wind stirs embers that glow like fading stars. Historians tell us Khmer palaces were often rebuilt after fires, which nobles sometimes set to erase rivals or their secrets. You notice a quirky court habit. Survivors scatter rice grains over ruins, a ritual to appease angry spirits. A few grains lie near a melted bronze dagger, its hilt shaped like a naga, but it belonged to someone in the pact. Historians still argue whether fires were accidents or arson, but you're betting this blaze was no coincidence. You sift through the debris, spotting a singed palm leaf with Surya Khmer's lotus and spear seal, half buried under ash. The pact, you recall, promised wealth and power, but Viriak and Shandara's betrayal, sealed at the festival, turned allies into enemies. You imagine Surya Khmer here, maybe fleeing the flames or facing a final stand. Shandara's pearl necklace, that glittering trophy, is nowhere in sight, but you spot Viriak's crimson ribbon, singed but intact, tangled in the rubble. Bet he lit the spark, or at least fanned it, to bury the prince's ambitions. You chuckle. Destroying a hall to hide a plot is peak Khmer elite drama. A faint breeze carries the scent of damp earth and lingering smoke. You notice the veiled noblewoman's shadow again, or maybe it's just a trick of the light, her amulet long gone. Khmer women often vanished from records after scandals, their roles whispered but rarely written. Was she the architect of this ruin, or just a witness? A servant, barely visible in the haze, sweeps ash from a stone apsara, its smile untouched by the fire, a Khmer flex of defiance. The hall's wreckage tells a story. Surya Khmer's pact burned out, his trust a fuel for treachery. As you linger, the gong's echo fades, leaving only the rustle of ash. The ruins whisper of betrayal, Viriak's ribbon, Shandara's greed, the noblewoman's schemes. Surya Khmer's dream lies in pieces, and this charred hall is its tomb. Let's keep moving, past the ash and echoes, toward the final whispers of this tragedy. You linger in the quiet aftermath of the Khmer palace, standing on a stone terrace where the air feels softer now, tinged with the faint scent of jasmine and the distant murmur of a morning market. The ruins of the burned hall are behind you, their ash settling like a faded memory, and the 13th century Angkor court's intrigues seem to dissolve into the golden haze of dawn. You followed the shadowy pact that promised Prince Surya Khmer power but led to his downfall, and now it's time to reflect on its lingering echoes as the court's opulence and betrayal fade into whispers. You lean against a weathered pillar, its carvings of lotus flowers worn smooth by time. Historians note that Khmer courts rebuilt after tragedies, their nobles spinning tales of divine will to mask human failings. You spot a quirky relic, a single lotus petal pressed into the terrace's cracks, perhaps left by a mourner or a survivor. Historians still argue whether Surya Khmer died in the fire or fled into exile, his name erased from temple records. You're betting the pact's collapse left no winners, only ghosts. Viriak's ribbon, Shandara's necklace, the veiled noblewoman's amulet, all are gone, swallowed by the ash or the court's selective memory. You recall the festival's drums, the river's lanterns, the astrologer's warning, each a thread in a tapestry now unraveled. The prince's ambition, bright as that pearl necklace, burned too fiercely, and the court's hunger for power turned trust to cinders. You chuckle softly. Nobles here played loyalty like a game of chaturanga, only to find every piece a pawn. The terrace is quiet, save for a servant sweeping dust, his broom a rhythmic whisper. Khmer elites love their grand gestures, but in the end, their schemes vanished like rice grains in a monsoon. As you stand here, the morning light softens the palace's edges, its spires glowing like a fading dream. The air carries no more whispers of betrayal, only the hum of life beyond the gates. Merchants calling, ox carts creaking. Surya Khmer's story, like the lotus petal, is a fragile trace, lost to time's gentle sweep. Let's ease away from this court, its gold and its shadows, and let the quiet take over. The terrace fades now, its stones blurring into a soft haze, as if the palace itself is exhaling one last breath. Picture yourself stepping back, the jasmine scent lingering, the market's hum growing fainter. The court's intrigues, Surya Khmer's pact, Viriak's smirk, Shandara's greed, dissolve like mist over the river. You're safe now, far from the silken daggers, the feasts and fires. Imagine a cool breeze brushing your face, carrying away the weight of ambition and betrayal. The stars above Angkor are dimming, giving way to a dawn that feels kinder, softer. Let the palace's echoes slip away, replaced by the gentle rhythm of your own breath. Close your eyes, if you haven't already, and let the world grow quiet. No more schemes, no more shadows, just rest, warm and calm, as the night carries you home. Sweet dreams.